thank you for being here. We are again here with none other than the one and only Coach Abe Shreve, founder and mega man of the Millionaire Business Network, Business Maps, as well as a mansion builder, dad of 4, married man who he is very happy that his wife is still there plugging along with him, and general quirky fella, if I would say so. Abe, is there anything I missed under your categories of who you are?
I have a podcast called Choose Difficult.
That's right, the podcast.
Yeah, and I think you've covered all of it. I like to climb rocks and make stuff out of wood and metal.
Tall, scary, steep rocks, I think, is a good qualifier for the type of rocks that you like to climb.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, we are not here today to talk about rock climbing. We are here today to talk about leadership and the coach approach to leadership, right? Because that's what our title is today, is the coach approach to leadership. So Abe, let's just open it up. What does it actually mean to you? So when you say the coach approach to leadership, give our viewers some perspective. Like, what does that mean?
Well, I one time heard Gary say that, this is most simply put, I've heard the description of why someone needs to hire someone else. They said you start working as an agent, you get really busy, and you have to hire help. You have to hire leverage, is what he said. And so many of us, you and I have never done this, but others have done this. We're good at the thing we do. And so now we need to hire, but we have not spent time developing how to find and attract and lead talent. And thankfully, inside of Keller Williams, we have career visioning, and we have KW talent, and we have advanced behavioral assessment tools that make us smarter than we'd ever be on our own. But even then, Liz, most people don't go to those tools first. We trial and error. We find someone we like and we say, I need help, and we get along, we should work together.
Mm-hmm. And then we get busy.
Yeah.
And so we just keep going.
We hire them and we say, you're the right person. All right. See you in a month. And then we just kind of
you have a pulse. Congratulations, you're hired.
Yeah. And I think a part of that is we can often hire when we're in a state of pain, whether we're just feeling the burden of all the work that's on us and all the things that we need to get done, or maybe there's a system or something that we want to put together that we don't know and somebody else does, and we're going to hire someone to do that. Either way, what we so often will do is we'll hire people and then we'll underlead them. There's this message: if you hire the right person, then you'll never have to teach them. They'll always know. And in my personal experience, that's not the case. That truly talented people are going to want to know what are the parameters in which I win. And so the coach approach is really, it's really a simple method that helps a leader move from someone who has to micromanage, or somebody who is a little top down, you work for me, I'm over you, that kind of thing, to an approach that gets the very most out of its people. And if someone's not the right match, then you're going to discover that quickly and somewhat organically. They're going to discover that alongside of you. And so for me, the coach approach is all about the tools of a great coach, and how to keep people engaged and how to keep them in a state of ownership thinking.
You know, it's interesting. You said that there's this thing going around that if you hire the right person, they'll just get it and they'll go. And here's the thing, like, talented people like to be led, right? They like to be led. They need to know there's a path. They need to know that the person who is leading them has a vested interest in their success. Nobody likes to be abandoned. And that doesn't mean we don't have a lot going on. And it doesn't mean we spend 40 hours a week with that person. And yet we say that the right person will just know how to do it. The right person will take it and they'll own it. And they will, but that doesn't exclude you from the leadership role, right? I think that's the part of that statement that never seems to make it in there, is you still got to be there. You are still the leader. You still set the pace. You set the tone. You set the vibe, right? You set the vibe for what is going to be happening there the entire time. And yeah, we all screw up. And a talented person that comes into our world, if we really screw it up, that talented person is going to exit and go into somebody else's world who might screw it up less.
You know, and a lot of times, Liz, we don't underlead because we're just so busy or our time is so valuable that it's so precious that we can't be bothered. We underlead because we just don't know how to lead.
Wow.
And I have personally experienced this in my own life experience 58 years ago. I'm only 51, but it was a long time ago. And I don't know that you actually learn these lessons without getting into them and messing them up a little bit. But there are some things that we can do, and I consider these just the staples. There are some things that we can do that I think will set the table for people that will thrive in our world. And if they don't thrive, we will know together, and we can help coach them up and coach them out and get them somewhere where they will thrive. And so if it's cool, let me jump in. Now, there are
Yeah.
some things
Go.
that I think are mission critical. And these are areas that the work you're doing and KW Talent are big on this. And that's having a plan for their first 100 days, right? Really, really critical. We want to understand those things. But let's move ahead a little bit to the regular rhythm. I spent some time yesterday with a top producer in our company, and they are struggling a little with their team members, right? This is so rare. No one's ever experienced this. We've all
No
had
one,
this.
no one's ever had a problem with a team member, especially not in a shift.
Yeah, right. And so I asked that person, how are your one-on-ones each week going? And we have talked about this many, many times, and they're going to probably punch me in the face when they hear this, but I'm not going to say who it is. But they said, well, I'm really doing them once a month because I find that if I don't, we just really spend time talking. And I am telling you before God and all the angels, that is exactly how to disengage talented people. In fact, Liz, in my experience and in my opinion, the most important meeting that will exist for anyone that has come to work with us will be their weekly one-on-one. And I believe that there is at least 4 simple little steps, and there should be an agenda, and that meeting belongs to them. And if you want, I can walk you through what those steps are.
No, Abe, I don't want you to do that at all.
Here we go.
None of these people want to hear any of that. Of course we want that.
We start with some interpretive dance. No, okay.
We
So here's the,
formulated. We
that's
planned
right.
it.
Here are 4 things. Now, let's just say, Liz, that you're on my real estate team. That would never happen. I'd be on yours. But let's just say for fun that you're on my real estate team.
Got it. I work where
And
Abe.
we have our one-on-one at a certain time in the week. And I get someone saying, will you come list my $10 million home? The worst thing I can do is say to you, I can't meet with you because I have this big listing. The best thing I can say to you is, Liz, I had someone call and say, come list my $10 million home. But this meeting, this time with you is more important to me than anything else. We are in this for the long haul. So I told them I could not come. Now, we're not going to be in that situation where we have to choose the $10 million listing. But the point I want to drive home is when a leader treats this one-on-one session casually, they are saying to that person, one of a couple of things: I don't care enough to hold the time sacrosanct, or I'm not organized enough to hold the time sacrosanct. And genuinely talented people will move away from that quickly. And so
that's a huge turnoff for them, right?
yeah,
You're telling me I'm unimportant and I'm putting my career in the hands of somebody who either A, doesn't care about me, or B, isn't good enough to lead me.
that's it. So everybody needs clarity in their role. They need to have clarity in the actions that they're going to take every day. And those actions must be tied to conversion rates and to the end desired outcome. And so I believe that every great coaching call, and thus every great leadership coaching session, should begin by looking at, we'll just call them the 10,000-foot red flag metrics, the main metrics. If you're an agent and we've agreed that we're going to look at your contacts made, your appointments set, and your listings taken, let's say, for example, then every week, regardless of where that is, we're going to look at those things. And we may spend 1 minute. You might be right on goal, and we might just see that. But the objective, if I'm the leader, my objective is to have you report on those. So if we get started, you would say, all right, Abe, I had a goal to contact 100 people this week. I did 89. I had a goal for 2 appointments, and I was able to set 3. and we've taken one listing so far. You're going to teach them that before we do anything, you're going to just share where we are against where we said we wanted to be. Then
Well,
the
and I think
second
there's
thing,
a key point there that I want to highlight, Abe.
please do.
You're not coming in and saying, I see that you have 5 appointments that you went on. You took 3 of those listings and you have put 2 of them on the market. As the leader, you're not coming in and doing that. And that's really important to highlight, that I'm coming to Abe, right, in this scenario and saying, Abe, I went on 5 appointments this week. I took 3 of those listings and 2 of them are live. Because by me, the team member, bringing that, I'm taking ownership of my role. I'm showing that I know what's going on in my business. I'm taking ownership of my role, and I understand that those are my numbers. Those are not Abe's numbers. Those are my numbers. Those are my metrics, right? That's the really important, subtle thing in there is, as the team member, I'm bringing it and reporting it to him, not vice versa.
And this means, Liz, that there is a moment in our relationship where I'm going to say, so Liz, when we get together each week, here's how it's going to work. You're going to own the agenda. I want you to get that to me in advance. And then we're going to go through these 4 steps and whatever other steps you may have, but we're at least going to go through these 4, which means you'll say to me, and I'm going to model that for you. Now, if I've just hired you and I've taught that to you and I come back the next week and I say, great, let's get started, and you're floundering a little, that is absolutely normal because adults learn by seeing something done 7 times. So I might say, Liz, I just want to walk back through. I know this is new. I want to walk back through how this is going to work. So you're going to start the meeting. I may tip us off by saying, let's get rocking. But the first things we're going to do is you're going to say, okay, my goals were, and here's where I actually am. And so that's where a lot of people fail, is they teach it once, and then they just let that person flounder in that meeting. And it's important to say, hey, let's walk back through that. Let me just share with you. It might take them 3 or 4 times, but Gary says that leadership is teaching someone how to think. And I think you alluded to that earlier. And that is what we're doing here. So we're teaching them how to think about this time together. And Liz, how important is it when somebody goes out and works really hard? How important is it to them to come back to their leader and share what they did?
Very, right? That I was able to do these things. I was able to move these things forward.
Yeah. You and I have been coaches for a long time.
No, I'm not. I've been a coach for like a year, Abe. I'm like 23
Yeah.
years old.
You are a spring chicken. We've been coaches for a good long time. And, something that you'll hear in the coaching space quite a bit is coaches will say something like, what's the best thing that happened to you this week? And my gag reflex goes onto hyperdrive. Because every great coaching session, if you're a coaching leader, every session begins, I keep saying these 4 steps. It begins with where am I goal versus actual, and how did I do on my commitments? The things I committed to last time.
Mhm.
And so the kiss of death in my experience for a leader or a coach, when they meet with someone, is for that person to have gotten to a point of clarity, to have gone out in the week and worked really hard, and I don't come back to that. So you go work hard. Maybe you hit a goal, maybe you don't, but you work really hard and we learn some things. And then you come back and I say, what's the best thing that happened to you this week? And what's the most important thing for us to talk about? And I go into this stuff instead of saying, Liz, I have been excited all week to hear how your contacts commitment went. Tell me about it. And so if this means I have to have a system, right, to capture, I have to be able to take notes and use those. If you go work all week and come back and I start with what's the best thing and what should we talk about, and I don't take us to your commitments, then I am telling you either you're not that important or I'm not organized enough. And both of those are detrimental to the leadership relationship. And so, the 4 steps are, where are we goal versus actual? Follow up on the previous commitments. It's the kiss of death if we don't. If we're short of our goal, what is your plan to get back on goal? And then any coaching that I can provide to help walk you through it, to help coach you up. That's step 4. You can add a lot of things. But if leaders will at least just do these and make them very consistent and very predictable, we won't have that moment at the end of a quarter, or worse, at the end of a year, where we look back at our people and say, I don't think they're the right person because they didn't hit any of their goals.
Mm-hmm.
That should not happen, because the coach approach is we meet every week. We review, check in on where we are, and they're the ones that are doing it. And that gives us time to coach, to help them, to bring their skills up, to put more resources around them, to offer training, to maybe go with them.
Well, and to find out where's the gaps, right? Like, where is the gap, or where do we need to create a gap, right? It's, if I've got somebody that's coming to the table every week and they're saying, hey, I went on 5 listing appointments. I took 5 listings, 4 of them are on the market. Like, I'm crushing it. I'm not going to keep having, right? Or you're not going to keep having the conversation with me of Liz, 5 listings, Liz, 5 listings. What's the conversation going to change to, Abe?
Yeah.
It's going to change to, Liz, let's talk about 8 listings a week.
Yeah.
Let's talk about 10 listings a week. Let's talk about leadership skill and taking somebody under your wing, right? The conversation will grow. And so that's one of the reasons that consistency and that framework that you're talking about of we're going to go through these things every week is important. And I think every one of my coaching clients, and I saw a couple of names on here that I believe a few of them are on here. Every one of my coaching clients knows exactly how I'm going to open a call. I say the exact same thing every single week to some of them for 8 to 10 years, right? The exact same thing. And I tell them on our very first call, every week, I'm going to ask you one question when we start, and then we're going to get into the call. And that question's never going to change. It's going to be the same every single week. And they laugh. And then, 8, 10 years later, we have the exact same question opening the call every single week. And they're like, yeah, no, you weren't kidding, huh? Nope. It's about that consistency, because we're keeping that accountability and that rhythm and that tempo.
And it also gets us into where they need help quicker. Right. And so, the other 2 things that I'll say about the coach approach, the main tools, Liz, would be practiced and developed skills in the area of active listening and questions. We ought to spend a moment on both of those. Can we do that? Let's start with questions. My experience, Liz, is that just because you can do a thing doesn't mean you do it well. Just because I can swim, no one is asking me to swim in the Olympics. I would be like that breakdancer from Australia. It would be catastrophic for our country. Just because I can ask questions doesn't mean that I'm good at it. I like to give this funny little example where my wife and I are leaving to go out for the evening, and she asks the question, are you going to wear that? It's a question. Why are you laughing, Liz?
I ask that question a lot to my partner too. I ask him, I'm like, oh, are you going to wear that?
Yeah. Are you not sure? Are you uncertain that he is going to keep on his body the clothes that are currently residing there as he steps over the threshold? It's actually not a question. What is it? It's a statement, right? You got to go change. Well, we laugh at that one. I mean, we can all identify with that one, but imagine if I said this, you're short of your goal, and I say, Liz, do you believe the goal is important? It's a horrible question. I put you in a corner. You must defend yourself now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're in a
It's an
state,
accusatory question. While there's
that's
a question mark at the end of it, it is an accusatory question that is not actually meant to be answered in any way except for the way we want the question to be answered. So it's a very accusatory question.
That's it.
Defenses go up. You'll watch the body language like this.
That's it. And they may say the right thing, but that doesn't mean they're going to walk out of the room. So I want you to watch what I do here. I do this all the time. We're both very seasoned coaches, and I still do this. I will still say, Liz, I want to ask you the right question here. Give me just a minute. I want to make sure I get this right. And then I'll ask a question. I have these little things in our, when I train people about this, we call them ninja tips. They're basically all the things I learned screwing it up. And so one of the ninja tips is don't be bulletproof. If you ask a bad question, say it. Oh, Liz, that was a bad question. Let me try it again. If I do that, You don't, do you lose respect for me if I ask you something? I'm like, oh, it's not a good question, Liz. I'm leading the witness. Let me try it again. Do you lose respect?
No.
Nope. Because it's more important to us in this leadership partnership that we get it right than it is I say things right the first time. And so questions are a skill-based endeavor. And therefore, asking a good question. If I say to you, how did it go? And you say to me, I had a goal to set 10 appointments and I set 8. The temptation is to say, how are you going to make up the other 2? What we really should say is, Liz, tell me about the 8. Now listen to these questions. What worked better than you thought it would? What is something you did that if you were to do that again, you're certain you could create the same result? What surprised you this week because it worked? Looking back, at what point in the week do you think looking back, when in the week do you think you would have noticed we're not on track to hit the goal? What would you adjust if you could go back? These are questions designed to unlock a person. And so instead of just going in on what they didn't do, we're going to get there. We're first going to explore what they did do. And so there's some things for questions. Let me give just a couple of things for people to practice. Avoid stacking your questions. New coaches do this all the time, don't they, Liz? They stack them up. And new coaching leaders do this. How did you do on your goal? And what would you do different? And what is going
Like
to
you
be your
said
goal?
before, leading the witness, right?
Yeah,
You're leading to an end result that you already have predetermined that you want them to answer.
that's it. We stack them up. And it's really useful to stop and say, I just said a lot of things. What did you hear? And we give it back to them. And so avoid stacking. And if you do, just call it out. Yeah, I just asked you 3 things. Let me pull that back. I want to ask you this one. We also want to avoid questions that are leading, like, is the goal important to you? You do know, don't you? If you ever find yourself saying something like that, you do believe, or you do know, if I could wave my arm and cast a spell, I would have you vomit the second you said those words. Just projectile vomit so you'd never do it again. And so stacking, we want to avoid statements in a question form. Are you going to wear that? Teresa's not wondering if I'm actually going to wear the clothes on my body. She's saying, don't wear that. She's usually right.
She's saying, no, you're not going to wear that tonight.
But I might say to someone, are you going to join us this time? And if I care at all about that relationship, I'm pushing them away. Now, this does not,
right? Like those types of questions are condescending, right? It's almost belittling when we ask them. Now, I'm probably still going to ask Chris that when he wears a ridiculous shirt out to dinner on a date night. Sometimes I just say, don't even think about wearing that shirt tonight. Like sometimes I'll be direct and sometimes I won't. And here's the thing, when we're leading people and we're actually coaching people, that's not going to create a healthy working relationship because it becomes condescending, greater than, right? It's a defensive question. They're going to build a defense the second we ask them that way. And then we don't get what we wanted in the first place.
Yeah. And we certainly don't help them.
No.
And so believe it or not, if a leader is holding their regular one-on-ones and they're doing them like this, like I've described to you, or close to it, then you're going to be having the small corrective training conversations along the way. And so there's not this big, we got to go back and change it. Gary, I've had the privilege of working with Gary for the last 6 years, and he does it like this. It's questions. It's all questions. Liz, do you think honestly that Gary knows what I need to do?
Oh, of course.
100% he knows. I've even said to him, Gary, please just tell me. And he will, but he asks a lot of questions because there's something about us finding our way to the right answer that gives us staying power to go do the work later. Even if we know what that person is saying is right.
Right? The journey of the self-discovery helps us learn, right? The journey of the self-discovery. That's how we get thought processes. That's how we understand the environment. We understand the repercussions. If I just tell you what to do, you don't actually learn anything. You just go and do activity. If I guide you through a series of questions and self-discovery where you're able to come up with a solution all on your own, or an answer or a plan, that's inherently learning a different way, right? And now you've elevated your game, right? Like you've elevated your skill set to that.
And when someone's missing their objectives, it is either a training issue, or it's a leadership issue, or it's a cultural issue. So they may not be a fit for the culture of our business. That's a different conversation. There may be a training issue. A lot of times the leadership issue is a training issue because we haven't really taught them. We've just taught them a few things, right? And so a great coaching leader will take time to say, hey, listen, let me take off my coaching hat. I'm going to teach you something right now. And we're just going to teach them. Let me explain this dialogue. And here's the way it works. Here's why it works. Let's practice it. You say it. I'm going to say it. But then we step back into that coach position. All right, Liz, we just talked about a lot of things. What did you hear? What stood out to you? What will you do with what we've been talking about? How should I start our next call? What do you want me to ask you first? These are all questions designed to drive engagement.
Well, and the challenge is, right, when we're starting as new leaders, right, because we weren't born that way. This is a built thing to become a leader and to become a good, skilled coach. We don't all just wake up and be like, I'm the world's best coach. No, this is 10, 15, 20,000 hours of coaching calls, training, coaching. Like this is an extensive thing. And the better you get at it, the better you get at it because you're practicing it. And the power of questions is so significant that when we're having those conversations, you begin to do it naturally, the better you get. Yet in the beginning, those first few years of doing this, when you're leading people, it's a challenge because you have the trainer and the teller hat, right? Like you want to tell, you want to train, you want to just do this, do this, do this, because it's the quickest way to you getting the result you want technically out of that. But they don't learn anything. So you're going to constantly be redoing that thing. And then you're going to get a new person and they're going to constantly be redoing that thing. And you're going to constantly be having to tell. And so when we tell and we just train, just remember there's a switch for everybody here, right? Like there's a switch and a go back. For those of you that are KW Talent members, in your member portal, if you would like to know how to coach better, we've got a couple of in-depth recordings on models that we use coaching, the GROW model, how to ask and how to frame a powerful question. Those are resources that are there to help you, right? Those are things that you can learn. How do I become a better coach and how do I ask more powerful questions? It's a challenge to do that naturally. It is a learned skill set.
I can give you a cheat code.
Cheat code it, Abe. I love a good cheat code.
So I'll give everyone here a challenge. And any coach that we certified in our business maps coaching side does this. And I wouldn't be surprised if you haven't done this, Liz. Write 1,000 questions. Get a little notebook. I have a little notebook that fits right in my pocket. Some people do this on their phone. I don't care what you use. Just do 10 a day, but write 1,000 questions. And people always ask me, well, questions about what? I don't care. Like do you like barbecue? Which do you enjoy better, red or blue? It really doesn't matter because in the first 60 to 80 questions, you're going to get all that crap out of your system. And then you start to hear questions because you're attuned to it. You'll hear someone ask one and you'll start collecting questions. And what this does, people always ask me, can I get a copy of all the questions? And I would never do that to someone.
Well, here's the thing. You could give people the questions anyways, and it's not going to help them because it's the act of thinking through them and figuring out the framework that makes a powerful question that actually does it. And yes, it's 25 questions a week, Abe, for the last 14 years of being a coach. There's 1,000 is long in the dust. Thousands sailed away a long time ago.
Yeah, but we're not wanting to become people that have access to a Rolodex, if anyone knows what that is, a Rolodex of all the questions. Just a minute, I've got a great question for that. I'm going just 1 second. That's not the objective, right? The objective is to change the way that we think and approach things. And you become someone that thinks in terms of questions, skill skill-based questions. Every relationship in your life will improve. Your understanding of why people do what they do around you and how to move them forward will improve. And then if you layer in active listening, which is essentially hearing what is being communicated, though it may not have been spoken. That's really what active listening is. It's, we get on a call, Liz, and I say, hey, how are you? And you say, I'm okay. If I'm an active listener, I'm going to stop right there. That felt heavy, Liz. And I learned from my dear friend, Matt Townsend, to observe the emotion. That seemed heavy. Tell me about that. And you might just say, oh, I'm sorry, I was just finishing an email and there's nothing to it. We don't want to light a fire so then we can put it out. But you might say, yeah, my lead admin just quit. Or there might be something here. But if I just hear what you said, how you doing? Okay, great. And then just move into it. I miss the moment. And so
something's brewing behind the scenes there that we're
yeah.
never going to know if we didn't stop and listen and ask.
I heard that in your voice. That sounds heavy. What's going on? I can hear something in your voice, and just observing that active listening is a whole other side of it. But just the awareness alone that there's what a person says, and then there's what they communicate, and they're often not the same.
Well, Abe, we're going to have to bring you back for active listening because we are out of time. So here's my last question for you. If you could give one moral of the story, right? We've got 60 seconds left. One thing left for these folks on how we're taking a coach approach in our leadership and truly showing up as that person. What would those words of wisdom be?
I would practice the skills of being a great leader. I wouldn't go to autopilot. I would continue, Liz, you've been a coach forever and you still do 25 questions a week. I would practice that craft. If you've raised your hand and said to someone, come here and I will be the place that you can build a financial future for your family, then you owe it to everyone involved to stay sharp and to practice great questions and to practice great leadership and to stay in a learning state. Because there's no arrival point at leadership. Leaders, the best leaders are those that meet you where you are and then bring you with them on a learning journey that never stops.
It's interesting. I was listening to Gary and Jay on the MREA podcast. I think it was episode 39, maybe. It was the part 2 of the one that Jason did with Gary and Jay. And Jay referenced a principle that I cannot remember the concept, principle name at this moment. But basically it was the more you learn that you don't know. But at the point where you think that you know everything and you stop actually seeking, right? Like you begin shrinking. But the more you learn that you don't know and your world can expand. And it's this super fascinating concept on that. It's when I talk to somebody, especially leaders and team owners, right? Like big businesses, it's, I don't need to go to training. I don't need to go to mega camp. I don't need to read that book. I got it. Oh, okay. What I know is I'm going to start seeing that business shrink backwards, right? Because that person has put a lid on themselves and everybody in their environment. And talent doesn't want a lid. Talent wants opportunity. And if my leader is not going out and seeking opportunities and learning, that means they're putting a lid on me and I will go right out that door, right? There's the challenges we have. So Abe, as always, you are always a pleasure, a wealth of knowledge to have on an interview. We will bring you back for an active listening session.
I would love to do that.
Thank you all for being here, and those of you watching on Facebook. For your KW Talent members, I will see you in the portal. If you need anything, you know how to reach us. Abe, till next time, go climb some rocks. Have a great time, and we will see you soon.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Liz.
Bye.